Freestyle Light test strips. Call or click today.
Welcome back to the show. Big news tonight. The planned vote on Speaker Boehner's debt plan is not happening. It's another step backwards for Boehner as he tries to prevent the GOP from descending into outright chaos. Boehner told Tea Partiers in the House to, quote, get their A's in line and support him. But check this out. Think Progress is keeping a running tally of all the House Republicans who say they're still against the plan. 26 in all. Enough to defeat Boehner's bill. The heart of the problem, resistance from the Tea Party. Well, with me now is Phillip Dennis, founder of the Dallas Tea Party, a group that claims to have 20,000 members. Well, are you happy or sad to see Mr. Boehner on the brink of a real disaster here?
Well, I'm kind of feel strongly both ways. First of all, I'd like to say that in almost 3 years, President Obama or the Democrats have not submitted a budget. And it's kind of ironic that all of the focus is on Speaker Boehner and the Republicans when the Democrats have not sat back and done anything to alleviate the situation. It's not like the debt limit just crept up on, oh, there it is. I mean, this thing's been coming for a long time. But they chose to sit back and then demagogue and scare old ladies about their Social Security.
Let me ask you something,
let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
And then what they thought they would do is the Republicans would roll over, give them their tax increases, give them the debt limit increase. And so I am very happy that the Tea Party has put the fright into the Republicans to vote against this madness.
Now, let me ask you something. When you say for 3 years, almost 3 years, that Mr. President Obama and the Democrats, have you ever heard of George Bush? Maybe you
Absolutely.
might recall that what President Obama inherited started with George Bush, and that when Mr. Clinton handed President Bush the White House, we were in a surplus, and when Mr. Bush handed it to Mr. Obama, we were in a deficit with 2 wars that might have something to do with the debt that you talking about the country's in. We did not get the debt under President Obama. We inherited the debt from Mr. Bush, and it was handed to President Obama.
If you're looking for a fan of President Bush, you're looking in the wrong place, and that's the Tea Party did not really support President Bush. That's why the Republicans lost power in 2006. President Bush added $4 trillion to our deficit in 8 years. However, and that's pitiful, it's terrible, and we kicked him out of office for that. But President Obama has increased the national deficit by $4.5 trillion in less than 3 years, which is insanity from a fiscal standpoint.
Okay, but you're saying that the Tea Party kicked President Bush out of office.
We certainly stopped voting for them, for the Republicans, and we stopped sending them money, absolutely.
Okay, so,
and that's why President Obama was able to...
I missed something. I thought President Bush left because he couldn't run again anyway, and I thought it was McCain that was defeated. And let me show you what McCain thinks about Tea Party politics, because this is who ran against President Obama, not President Bush. Little historic fact. President Bush didn't lose the 2008 election. He'd already lost the economy, but he didn't lose the election.
But he lost control of Congress in 2006.
Let's look at Senator McCain a minute.
That is not fair. That is not fair to the American people. To hold out and say we won't agree to raising the debt limit until we pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. It's unfair. It's bizarro. And maybe some people who have only been in this body for 6 or 7 months or so really believe that.
Bizarro. That's what Senator McCain, the standard bearer of your party, said about your kind of politics and your Tea Party freshman.
Well, I think most people in the Tea Party consider Senator McCain to be the Lord of the Rhinos. We really don't care what he has to say. And for his insinuation is that the fiscal conservatives in America should sit back and trust the people that have been in Washington for 40 years and run up a $14.3 trillion deficit, that we should let them just keep driving us down the road until we're over the cliff, is insanity. And so, no, we don't pay much attention to Senator McCain.
The Lord of the Rhinos. And
you can quote me on that.
You didn't like Bush either. Well, who do you guys like? Are you going to run candidates and primary some of the Republicans?
Oh, absolutely. You know, this is the funny thing that I think the Democrats are certainly missing Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi. Last election, we sent home 63 big spending Democrats, but we're not loyal to the Republican Party. We're loyal to leaders that exercise fiscal responsibility. So in this next election coming up next year in November, we plan to send home another 63 big spending Democrats and another 63 big spending Republicans as well. And anyone that's shown that fiscal insanity, we're going to primary them. You better believe it.
Oh, so you're going to send
Al,
63 Republicans home. You're going to primary them.
We would love to. Here's the thing, is that the Tea Party, after all the names that everyone has called us on the Republican rhino machine from the hard left core, they've called us names. That's all they've called us. But the root core, all that we ask for is for our government to spend one less penny than it takes in revenues, because that's how we must live our lives. We cannot go on borrowing 43 cents on the trillions of dollars that we borrow and spend every year.
But why don't you want to see, if that is your real goal, why don't you want to see those that are the super rich have to pay their regular tax and close these loopholes? I mean, let me show you something. You look at a guy like John Paulson. Here's a guy who made $4.9 billion with a B dollars last year, the equivalent of 184,000 American citizens per capita. I mean, why aren't you talking about closing loopholes and making sure this guy is not paying his earned taxes as estate tax in a tax loophole? Why doesn't that bother you?
Well, because the Tea Party believes that we don't have a revenue problem in Washington, D.C. We have a spending problem. And I will say, as for that guy you just mentioned, I haven't heard of him, but the top 1% of the earners in America paid more than the bottom 95% total together. And we have a situation now, Alan, I'd like for you to discuss this one time, why we have 50% of Americans that don't pay any federal income taxes. So you've got the top 1% pays 50% of the taxes in this country. It's absolute insanity. And by the way, I've had a lot of jobs in my life, but I've never worked for a guy that made $35,000 a year.
You have people in the top 1% that have their tax, under the tax codes, their percentage is less than some of the secretaries that work for them. I mean, let's be clear on where the wealth is in this country and where it is not. And if you're really fighting for people that are grassroots from the bottom that are trying to survive, how do you give a pass to the super rich?
Are you calling paying 50% of the taxes if you're in the top 1% a pass? That's absolutely incredible. What about the 48% on the bottom that don't pay anything? Half the country doesn't pay any federal income taxes. Everybody needs to have skin in the game. Then they'll start paying attention to the insanity
Everyone ought to have
that goes on in Washington, D.C.
in the game. Equal skin. You have corporations paying no taxes at the top. What I don't understand is, and again, you made the point twice, that you seem to focus on who you claim are at the bottom, and you keep giving a pass, won't even discuss the guys at the top. In your statement to me, you keep acting like, well, they are all right. How are they all right when they're paying a lower percentage than some of the people that work for them? They have loopholes that can give them that kind of money. They have loopholes on corporate taxes. They're creating more jobs in some cases overseas than they are in America. I mean, are you representing Americans or are you representing the super rich?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I know a lot of people around this country. I don't know one person that has a private jet that you and President Obama have decided to demagogue as being the most evil people on earth. But I do know that wealthy people create jobs. I've never worked for a poor man or a poor woman before. They've all been very wealthy, and they provided me a good living. And so they pay more than their fair share right now in taxes. I believe everybody in America should pay some type of tax. However,
Dennis, I'm going to have to go, but let me say this. I think a lot of rich people are creating jobs. They're just not creating them in the United States. But thank you, Phillip Dennis, founder of the Dallas Tea Party. Good luck on getting rid of all those Republicans next year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ahead, is Boehner playing the role of the Grinch for politics? Our panel debates. And Governor Perry is distancing himself from his own prayer meeting. After hearing who signed up, it's no surprise. That's next. Stick around.